Good morning, a very good morning, and welcome to Swecho TV. This is Hot Seat. Thank you so much for joining me live, coming to you every Monday, 10 a.m. to 12 noon, Monday to Friday. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is Swecho TV, the best place to be. Now, today we are having a SABA SABA day, which is not really officially a public holiday, but of course we have got a lot as a country that we always try to look into such like a day. Let me take you to just a brief history on how we emerged to be having SABA SABA Day and see later on how things will run. SABA SABA Day is annually held on 7th July. It is a historic day in Kenya commemorating the 1990 pro-democracy protest, often marked by demonstrations against government actions, corruption, and of course the high cost of living that every day people have to complain on. Now let us look at the recent one, that's some few months ago, the 2025 events, whereby SABA SABA saw widespread Gen Z-led protest across at least 17 to 20 counties. That of course almost half, almost half of the country of the valid countries in Kenya as a whole, with protesters marching against police brutality, economic hardship, and honor victims from the previous year's anti-finance bill protests. The demonstrations were marred by heavy state crackdowns with over 30 fatalities and hundreds of injuries. Again on that, the somehow background of this, the name translates from Swahili to that's 7-7, originating from the July 7th, 1990 defiance that sparked Kenya's return to multi-party democracy. Let's have a look at the maybe official stances that we've been having. Police regularly warn the public and activists to keep demonstrations peaceful. Law enforcement often issues statements noting that an notified gathering is restricted or central business district are considered unlawful assemblies. Just to compare with our nearby country, we realize that in Tanzania it is an official national public holiday celebrating the founding of the Tanganyika African National Union, that is the TANU party, in 1954. But here in Kenya it's not an official public holiday. Instead, it is recognized as a significant day of civic reflection and activism that commemorate the historic of 1990 democracy protest, as I discussed with you earlier. Now we come to see that all these people had got different views. That's of course referring to yesterday evening, whereby when we look at it, of course the security agencies tried to deny the fact that they were not informed about this, and therefore we have got this day every business goes on as usual, as if there's nothing at all that should be going on or rather disrupting any business. So again, when you look at today, the activists say that they are marching to Parliament, and of course they have got various issues that we are going to look into one by one and see how this happens. Activist Francis Owino notified police on Tuesday of the march, of course, of the Tuesday march on Sunday, and police rejects claims of involvement in abduction that has already been happening across the country. And those are some of the issues that the activists are going to work on, or rather to march towards. These are some of the objectives they have and some of the grievances that they are taking to the Parliament. And security agencies say that today everything is going to operate normally, and they all disagree on the SABA SABA march. So activists insist that they will go ahead with today's protest. Let's see on how we will be bringing you that live and see how things works. And on the same note, we realize that Isa Mohammed, the regional police commander, insists that the passenger vehicle will be allowed inside the city, but at some point, and they ensure that everyone is protected across the entire nation. Again, Elizabeth Chieng also tries to say that in as much as they tried to notify the police are of course treating that statement with ignorance, and they say that they are not going to have any protest, but of course the activities insist that it must happen. And of course, according to Mulinge Muteti activists, he says that anyone who sees police officers with a covered face, they should uncover the faces with immediate effects, because ideally nobody is allowed to, or rather no police officer is allowed to go to any protest with a covered face. Let me play for you such videos that or rather the whole occasion that happened yesterday in the evening, and see what the security sectors and rather the activists they had to say on today's important day. Let's have a look at
tumepanga mikakati. Maandamano haijengi, maandamano ni kuvunja, inavunja na kuharibu economy na uchumi wa Kenya.
Asitumia vijana vibaya, na wenye wanatumia vijana vibaya wanatoa vijana nje, wanawaambia watawapea hiyo 1,000 ama hiyo 500. Hiyo pesa atapewa aende huko akufe, hiyo pesa hata iwezi msaidia.
Honor of those who fought for democratic reforms, we will conduct a peaceful procession to Parliament to present a petition calling for urgent parliamentary action to end extrajudicial killings, enforce disappearances, strengthen accountability within security agencies, uphold constitutional rights, and address the governance failure that continue to deepen economic suffering.
We did present that notification last Thursday, so they have it. So we expect tomorrow they will come, they will provide security to us. So any officer who will be operating outside the law will be held accountable personally.
Welcome back. I hope you've seen everything. Now, when we take this SABA SABA in a whole way, we've been seeing that everything, there's a security sectors, or other agencies, the entire team have been working so hard to ensure that nobody enters the city, or rather leaves the city or rather in any armed, or rather in a group that maybe brings attention to the public. We've been saying that in as much as the activists are also demanding for the high cost, they are talking of maybe police brutality, they are talking of abduction, they are talking of so many things that they are going to bring to the people's attention. They are taking this to Parliament, but of course the Parliament, there is security. There's a heavy security across the entire country, and of course the entrance in Nairobi, the CBD area, is somehow difficult to most of the Kenyans, or rather most of any individual. In as much as they could claim that businesses will operate normally, but again you realize that they don't allow people to enter some of the key points in Nairobi. So it means that the businesses actually is therefore disrupted in many ways. When we come to the statement that these people made, especially the security agencies, you realize that there is differences in their own viewpoint. We realize that when the security sector, they are not saying they are saying that they were not informed at all at any point, and therefore any protest, or rather any formation of any group within the town, or rather any reaction within the city, they will take actions against all, and you will be charged. They restrict every entry in Nairobi CBD, but again the activists insist that they must go to Parliament. But again they have their own view. They must go to the Parliament. They must reach these people. They must have their grievances. Security sectors doesn't recognize that, and therefore the common mwananchi have got also their own view. We will be bringing you everything, this coverage live on how everything is going on as we speak, and rather the entire day until the end of it, we will be bringing you everything live. In previous, just as I told you earlier, in previous event, that is in 2025 SABA SABA Day, we lost several lives, and of course so many people were injured that to some extent we may say that the people who got injured not everyone was compensated, because you realize that the life lost at some point, we may not be able to cover every life lost in a country, in a protest, of course, because a lot of things happen. People come together as a team. You may not tell that person A was in this group, or rather such a person was in this particular group. It brings a lot of commotion. It brings a lot of distortion of properties, and just to take you through as we speak, I can tell you that, I can assure you that on traffic update, Nairobi metropolitan area, the security roadblocks continue to affect access into the Nairobi CBD. Motorists traveling into Nairobi CBD are expecting a significant disruption, just as I told you earlier. So this is something that needs to everyone needs to be aware and keep safe anywhere you are, and even to our journalists, to our reporters, you must ensure that you are safe. Kenyatta Road, with vehicles being turned back at Kimbo, entry towards Nairobi remains heavily restricted. This means that in as much as you would wish to maybe pick something, or rather as you had been promised that everything will operate as usual, then there are some changes that that you must also adhere to. Githurai traffic is being diverted, with many motorists optioning to use the Kiambu Road before connecting to Limuru Road. Just take note of that. And coming from Juja, reports indicate that roadblocks are in place, with some vehicles being turned back as access towards Nairobi being controlled. Just in the City Stadium, or rather Jogoo Road, police have restricted both vehicles and pedestrian access towards the CBD. No through movement is currently permitted beyond the stadium area. Just it really doesn't mean that when security agencies tell something that at some point things do change. So when a new version, or rather when an emergency occurs, it means it must bring changes to some sectors. Remember, you were informed that everything will run as normalcy, but now entering to Nairobi CBD becomes a challenge. So just stay home and stay safe. Coming to Westland, traffic from the CBD is flowing normally. However, access towards Westland is restricted, with police presence reported here. Waiyaki Way, the traffic is flowing smoothly despite a heightened security presence. Security checkpoints have been established at Uthiru, 87, and of course the Kangemi, where routine screening is underway. Public transport remains limited, with few matatis operating as usual. That one tells you that. I'll also take you to Kajiado. I would like to also see everything that's happening across the metropolitan. Mombasa Road traffic is flowing smoothly from Cabanas towards Nyayo Stadium, with no major disruptions reported. Southern Bypass towards Karen, traffic remains light and undisrupted. And I'd like to say that maybe the security team is really working now. Thika Road, there is severe congestion reported from Kimbo towards Kenyatta Road, with vehicles being turned back at Kimbo. That one I already informed you earlier. So in as much as people would say that businesses must operate just as usual, and this day is assumed, there are some effect, rather there are some changes that have taken place that everyone must adhere to. Now, when we look at how Kenyans have been treating SABA SABA Day, you realize that they have been taking this as a public holiday. That is by ensuring that in every corner people reach out to talk on something. But sincerely, it is not gazetted as a national public holiday. But now you look at some few weeks ago, or rather in June, there was a protest that, of course, there was a peaceful protest that was the Gen Zs had in order to remember their lost heroes, or other heroines that the life that were cut short in the previous protest. So when you look at these abductions took place, and these are the things that activists are also working on. But again, the government already, the security agencies say that they have not been part of abductions, and therefore anyone saying that security sectors are involved and rather are the key suspect of the abductions that are going on and the country, then must be action needs to be taken with immediate effect to ensure that their names are not used wrongly. Referring to the PS statement, he stated clearly that everyone needs to be protected, but again, you realize that the goons that we talk of daily, then and even the CS Interior, Murkomen stated so well that these people are being self-driven by politicians. And when they carry out these activities, they are paid something small. So fighting goons becomes somehow difficult, because remember, politicians have got much details on every occasions of a country, and therefore they say that today we are going to do this and this. And in as much as every action needs, in as much as the security agencies try to reach out in all sectors, it simply means that they can't really fight the battle in one day, or rather in a given hour, because the people facilitating these people, or rather goons, are just within the top hierarchy, or rather among the political leaders. So it becomes so hard for everyone to do the usual that needs to be done on occasions. So when let me take you to maybe the cause of maybe SABA SABA. So throughout the 1980s, Kenyans operated under a strict one-party system led by the President Daniel Arap Moi, the late, of course. Section 2A of the Constitution made it illegal to form an opposition parties, and political dissent was heavily suppressed. Coming to the spark on July 7, 1990, brave opposition leaders and advocates such as Kenneth Matiba, Charles Ubai, and Raila Molo, the late Right Honorable Raila Molo Odinga, called for a massive public rally at Kamukunji grounds in Nairobi. So, coming to the crackdown, the government arrested key organizers days before the event. Despite this, thousands of defiant citizens showed up. The police response was violent, leading to over 20 deaths, thousands of injuries, and a widespread arrest. It simply means that in as much as SABA SABA, we may not take it as a public holiday, of course, but you realize that it's not something that belongs to an individual interest. Like in this one, in these 1990s, you realize that in as much as leaders could be arrested, but again, people could still show up. So we will see how the activists will carry it. If the normal Mananchi will join them, we will give you update and how many countries will this activity be carried on. And how many, the approximately the number of countries that will reach out for this, because realizes that in as much as leaders could be involved, then necessarily people always try to show up in large numbers to fight for these things. Let me take you to maybe the achievement. So the sacrifice made on July 7th served a catalyst for political change, often referred to as the second liberation. The intense pressure from the SABA SABA movement and the international community forced President Moi's government to repeal the Section 2A in late 1991, officially reintroducing multi-party democracy. In as much as we can remember that by then we only had one party, and that was the ruling party. And people had to come together and say that in as much as this party had got their own grievances, anyone who had got a different grievance could also say that no, we need to have a different party. I also need to form mine because we don't have the same agenda. We may not have the same interests in all the field that needs the public attention, rather meets the citizens' needs. And this could bring much pressure in forming several parties, and everyone had to adhere to this despite of every scenario that happened in every section. So SABA SABA is no longer just as an anniversary of the 1990 event. It is widely used as a day of civic action. Over the years, civil rights groups, activists, and youth-led movements have repurposed the date of protest against government overreach, police brutality, corruption, and the high cost of living. Basically, when you look at the activists were fighting for today, it is just the same thing. We find police brutality, we realize corruption, the high cost of living. So this is not the first time these people are fighting for this. You realize that from it has been so long, it has been so from several years. Realizes that these people comes and corruption, they've been fighting for corruption, police brutality. So this is not even the first time these things are happening. So the question is, even as the protest continues, or rather as people continue to organize as many protests as they would, does it mean that there is nobody listening to them, or rather does it mean that a lot that they are fighting for, nobody is really concerned at any point? Because when we talk of corruption, they've been fighting for it up to date. We talk of police brutality up to date, and then there are still no changes. And the security sectors, when you compare this and other previous years, you realize that in other previous years, security sectors always agree and say that no, if suppose we've been notified, and if suppose this thing is going to happen, let it be much peaceful, in order to ensure that the whole country, no life lost, no property destroyed, and everything in as much as you go to the street, every businesses should run as usual. But now this one, they disagreed. They are having different opinions. The police officers are saying they were not informed, they never received such a letter, and of course this is creating much public attention, because we ask ourselves that if activists showed up and stated everything clearly, that of course through their lawyer, everyone was informed, the security sector were informed in time, and they need to protect them. But again, the security says no, this is not the way. A lot is not going to happen at any point, in as much as all we were promised that everything must run to normalcy. The Parliament Road has been barricaded, and the security sector is trying to ensure that, even though maybe later on people will show up, or other activists will show up to find their way to Parliament, they ensure that everyone is protected and nobody is going to enter that area. The security sector already warned yesterday and said that in as much as people would have got different ideas, but with them they are not informed on anything, and therefore they are going to ensure that the country is safe and everybody is protected. The Parliament currently is under heavy security, and no access is allowed in, and this is going to ensure that maybe, just in case the activists will find their way out, then they will not be allowed to enter the Parliament way. Just to pick on some of the events, we realize that the people, as rather parents or rather every individual, had got a different opinion on this, and this is the first time that maybe you can say that SABA SABA is not having such a huge information, rather public participation, because when you look at when you compare this to the previous one, people had shown up by right now it's 5 minutes past 11, and at a time like this, people could be seen everywhere. The country could be like in the nearest cities, or rather in the nearest town, you could see groups of individuals fighting for something else. But again, this is now different from what we are having today, what we are experiencing. There is a low turnout, or actually we can't even say low turnout, but only the security sectors have been working all over and ensuring that nobody enters this. So they are saying that in as much as these people are going to the street, the activists say that they need to ensure that everyone needs to be protected at all the cost. But you realize that security sectors are ensuring that nobody enters anywhere. So this brings again another challenge, because they can't tell on who needs to do what and at what time, because you may also have got an emergency that needs your attention, but you are not allowed to access, because they believe that when you enter the CBD area, therefore you are most likely to form other groups, and brings tension which is not required at any point today. So let's have got a first break. Before that, I can assure you that the current situation in CBD is somehow not that easy, because in some of the areas, you realize that the security sectors are reinforced, and a high number of security agencies have been reported. As I promised you earlier that we will be bringing you this live, and don't hesitate, because this is the best TV station, the leading online TV station to be coming to you live. Let's have a short break, then we will continue. Don't leave, don't go anywhere. We are having our first commercial break, then we will be back in a few. Welcome back. Just a reminder that SABA SABA marks its the 36th year, and it's SABA SABA 36. Of course, we would like to see that there are several Kenyans giving out their own view. When we look at Mombasa, there are people, there are groups of people trying to enter the CBD and seeing that they are trying to communicate on their own. They have showed up. There are some activists that have showed up. We will be bringing you that live later on. The people have tried to come together as a team and talk on something else. So in as much as there is no much entry in the city, we would realize that people are trying to come out and say something. Let's refer to this our fellows who communicated yesterday and say what they had to say as residents of this great nation, and later come to discuss on what they had.
Shule. Na kuna watu ambaye nimesema kiongozi anaambia watu ende hiyo maandamano, na ikifika usiku anatoroka. So sisi tumesema vizuri sana. Hatuna problem na mambo siku ya SABA SABA. Na hatuna problem na wale wanataka kupanga hiyo mambo ya kwenda maandamano. Lakini kwa sisi tumesema tu tuna appeal kwa serikali wapeane ulinzi ya kutosha, shughuli za siku ziendelee. Mashule. Na kuna watu ambaye nimesema kiongozi anaambia watu ende hiyo maandamano, na ikifika usiku anatoroka. So sisi tumesema vizuri sana. Hatuna problem na mambo siku ya SABA SABA. Na hatuna problem na wale wanataka kupanga hiyo mambo ya kwenda maandamano. Lakini kwa sisi tumesema tu tuna appeal kwa serikali wapeane ulinzi ya kutosha, shughuli za siku ziendelee.
Thank you. You've seen that, of course, everyone needs to be protected, and they are saying that in as much as this SABA SABA have to be there in some scenarios, then the security agencies must ensure that everyone is protected. Now, Saba Saba is a very important day to the nation, or rather to the country. Of course, even though it is not considered as a national holiday, but it is a very important day. People come together, commemorate on so many things that happen. This is the only scenario, this is the only day that I believe people normally gather together and say that in a government, or rather for this period you've been in government, this and this have not been happening. We've experienced this and this and this, and therefore the changes that we would require as a nation, rather than as citizens of this nation, would be this and this. So this is the only day that people always come together, and despite of trying to be peaceful trying to be peaceful to air out their grievances, a lot always happen. We've lost lives severally. Commotions are always there with properties being destroyed. So this, I believe that perhaps it could have been somehow peaceful, but we would say that it is still too early to say that people will not show up. Of course, the rest can things normally change within an hour, or rather within a minute. Anything can happen. We will be bringing you live every discussion, or rather every move that will be going across the country. We would see that in as much as some businesses are going on within the Nairobi CBD, but not everyone is allowed again to access. So there are also very few vehicles, of course, within various roads across the country. Of course, from all sorts. Also, the movement is not as usual. The number of vehicles in the road across the country is not as usual. There are some features that are appearing. There are some, of course, ideas that are appearing. You see, everything cannot just happen once, but from the look of things that we've been seeing across the country, it simply shows that there's hope that people will turn up later and show their interest, or rather come out to speak for themselves on what needs to be done. Otherwise, no activists has communicated so far. We've not had any information from the activists around, and we may also see that this is going to bring some more questions, but comparing it to how it used to be organized by the late Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, the former party leader of ODM, the greatest party in Africa. He used to say that he used to have got a different way. Perhaps that's the criteria that these people are planning to use, because you realize that he would give a notification earlier, of course, through the lawyers and everything, and now everybody needs to be informed, including the party members, the entire leadership, and when it comes to showing up, the day could be just cool like any other day. People could show up, every individual people could show up, but with him, he would appear from an area that nobody really expected, because when you realize that maybe people could target him to appear in maybe Kamkunji, then you realize that he appears in a different field, of course, to that entry. So far, we can say that, rather I can confirm to you that there is no yet communication from the activists, or that the entire country is trying to, the security sectors are showing up, and rather protecting everyone and every businesses within the city. This is one of the days that will always be remembered within every individual in the country. They also try to see that there is order in every discussion, or rather in every movement that is being covered within the city, or rather at the entry, or rather at the borders of the country. Remember, most of these protests that we've been having, Nairobi city has been, rather Nairobi country as a whole has been considered to be the headquarters, or rather where every journey begins, and the security agencies confirmed to us yesterday that there will be no that such movement or rather entry within the city just by any individual. And again, it must be that there are restricted areas that nobody will be allowed to enter at any point. And this is just to ensure that there is no property lost, or rather to ensure that no property lost and or rather life. But as I can assure you that as we speak right now, we can say that everyone is safe. We've not seen anything that needs a really public attention. And when we say that when security sector says or rather claims that they have not been informed, is far different from when they say that the activity needs to be carried in a peaceful manner. So for today, they have said that nobody is allowed to enter the city, but the businesses continue to run as usual. But again, you realize that these people, the activists insist that they had communicated earlier, they have to be on street, they have to march to the parliament. But remember, parliament is also again one of the secure, or rather the highly protected areas across the nation. And when they say that they have to be there, and perhaps not everyone will consider that as maybe a peaceful negotiation, or rather peaceful movement that really needs to be considered. And therefore that's why you realize that people, or rather security agencies, or rather the entire government is now ensuring that nobody enters parliament, and roadblocks are everywhere, and they are screening all of us, as just I mentioned to you earlier. That several roads, there are still nobody, we are not accessing several centers, or rather several roads are on serious supervision, and they are ensuring that everyone is any movement is rather screened and rather notified, and they ensure that in as much as you would wish to move, of course you must give a clarity, or rather you must be checked that of course you are not having any weapon with you, and the exact direction that you are leading to ensure that at least as a nation the country is moving forward. And we would say that to those who will be in street, I'm not encouraging that of course we must show up, but I'm just saying that in any movement, or rather in any movement that will be carried out within the city, or rather in the entire country, we will be bringing you live. Just in case the activists show up, or rather find their way to parliament, of course we'll also bring it to you that live. So far I can assure you that no leaders communicated, or that the security agencies, but all the information that we are having is that every sector is operating, only that not all sectors I can't even say that 50% is operating. Of course, when we say that there's no entry within the city, or rather movement, or rather there's more restriction in movement, then it simply affects much businesses. So we would just like to tell you that be safe wherever you are. Any actions you take, ensure that you are very safe. Of course, there are also various ways of doing things. So basically, when you have to be out there, find a way of being out. If you don't have to be, then remain indoors. As the security agencies inform that it's so illegal, and therefore we will just take you through the entire movement that will be taking place within the nation, or rather if there is any address from the leadership or other security sector, we will also bring to you that live. Otherwise, I would just want to ensure you that this is the best place to be always. This is Swecho TV coming to you live every Monday to Friday. It is the hot seat. Today we were just looking at a brief history of SABA SABA and how things were, and how the security sectors communicated, and what the activists also said. So we've looked into it and saying, when you look at activists and the government, they need to become like one family, because the activists will also fight for the rights of every human across the country, but also the government should also do the same and protect every life. So when they all come to a disagreement, then it brings a lot of commotion to members of a country, or rather to the entire country, because the activists say that they are going to do this, and they are going to maybe talk of the police brutality. We realize that, of course, the government responded, the security sector responded immediately that they have never been involved in such. In as much as abductions occur, they have never involved in abduction. When it comes to police brutality, they say that they insist that the police officers always work under the law, and therefore any activities that they carry, again, is just within the law. IPOA hasn't also been stating clearly that they have also tried to show up clearly and saying that this and this, in as much as they would also take us through various investigations, but also we believe that in a unified government, everything that runs affects the nation positively. So when these people, when the two teams collide, as the activists and the security system, then it brings again another mistrust within the communities, between the government and the entire people. We will be bringing this coverage live to you from wherever you are. Just keep tuned in. Don't go anywhere. This is the hot seat coming to you live Monday to Friday with me, DEDAN. Never hesitate, or rather never go anywhere. This is the leading TV station. Remember to reach us through Swechotv@gmail.com, or rather you can call us via the number you can see in your own screen there. In all social media platforms at Swechotv Kenya, the best place to be always. Thank you so much for having me. Let's meet tomorrow. But again, don't go anywhere, because we are bringing to you the live coverage of everything that's going to happen on this SABA SABA day. Thank you so much for being here with me. I really appreciate we meet tomorrow, but don't go anywhere. We are bringing to you live the SABA SABA day.